What's up, everyone? Scotty from Chernobyl Studios. In this video, I'm going to take you in depth about the mix that I did for the mixing contest. Put up on my screen here real quick. The mixing contest that you can see here, Malamor, Dead to the World. This is being put on by Kristen Cole, Warren Hewitt. James Murphy is a guest judge, which is pretty cool. He's an OG death metal guy, played in Death. Great guitar player. So it would be cool if he heard my mix. The thing is, when I did my mix, by the way, I'll leave a link to this and everything down below in the description. When I did my mix, I did not anticipate all the comments. So I just thought I'd make a video and just show you what I did, okay? I have people saying it's too modern sounding or it's a great old school sounding mix. I don't know. I just did what sounded good to me, and that's all I can do. So I will show you exactly what I've done here. I'll just play, like if you haven't heard the song, I'll leave a link to all this down below, plus all the plugins that I used. Really, the song is old school death metal song. It was recorded on a Neve board in 1997. It was high quality stuff back in the day. You probably couldn't have gotten any better. So as far as the actual stems are concerned, for 1997, chef's kiss. It was going to be really hard to get any better than that. But obviously we're in 2022 and, you know, things have changed. So let's just play one little section here. Let me just pick a spot, whatever, just say, so you guys can get an idea what this sounds like.
You will die. I will make you turn into pain. Treasure in their life. It's about to be.
Okay, so definitely has a 90s vibe, right? So everything that you see here is what came with the session. These are the real drums. Obviously, I've just worked them. The bass comes with a DI, an amp, and then I created an extra one to do a Sans amp. The rhythm guitars are baked. It's an old crate. I don't remember. They showed us, Cola told us what it is, but it's an old crate from 1997. So there you go. And then the vocals, pretty self-explanatory, you know, pretty simple mix. The challenge was working with an old mix, right? If you want to know what this sounded like before everything, just go and there's a link down below for everything, guys. I just don't want to make this video even any longer than it has to be, okay? So if you've mixed the song, you already know what this sounds like. If you haven't, links down below. So the very first thing that we're going to talk about, obviously, are going to be the drums, because they required a lot of work. Now, for a lot of people, and Cola was right about this is going to be very hard for you, because we are in the tune track era of drum programming, where all the drums are basically perfectly recorded, and you don't have drum bleed, and you don't have to deal with bad performances or bad hits or anything like that. The first thing that I did was I didn't even bother trying to work with these two kicks. Why? You know, two kicks is the death nail of a good recording, because you can never tune them exactly at the same pitch. It's just impossible. And they were like super not close. It was like beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop. They were not close at all. Might even be able to just solo these and show you. Yeah, not even close. I mean, you know, you could try if you want. I mean, that would be a fun exercise to see how close you can tune them and match them. But why? There was a kick trigger that was given to us, so go with the kick trigger. I did not use the trigger that they gave us. I picked a different one. So the very first thing really that I did, to be honest with you, was I picked a different kick trigger, and then I got started cleaning up the drums. The kick trigger, it's self-explanatory here. Just something that I felt would fit in the vintage style, but, you know, would feel a bit more up to speed, like what we're used to hearing these days. I think actually it's a Bogren and a Cola. Yeah, so I have the typewriter from Cola, the drum shots, and then one of the Bogren TCIs. So pretty simple there. That's the easy part. Now the hard part is going to be the snare drum. There were quite a few things to do with the snare. This is not replaced. I did not use a trigger on the snare drum. This is the snare drum that you're going to get if you're mixing. And if we just take the plugins off and solo, okay, it's all the same snare, all right? There's a couple things that I did here is I've gone through just to make the gating a little bit easier. Even though like I used probably what I consider one of the best gates in the industry right now by AX DSP, multi-band gate. I'll go over that in just a second. I still had to go through sometimes and pull certain parts of the snare down because it was still getting caught in the gate. So the gate was triggering, and instead of making multiple tracks and trying to make the, here's one track for this, here's one track for that, sometimes it's just easier to make a range, splice, bring down the level, and then move on with your life. And I've done this in a few different instances where even I'm bringing things down in the middle of snare hits because these are China hits. So they're very loud. Oh, my gate's on. So these very abrasive China hits still will trigger the gate. But not in this case, right? So I've done that. There was a couple other... So I think the only major studio magic that I've done, if you want to call it studio magic here, is there were, especially near the end. Yeah, there was this bit here near the end where there is a China playing at the same time. And it was just killing the snare sound. It just, the snare would hit and the China would just be brought up so much due to the work that I've done on the snare that it wouldn't work. So I took a snare over here somewhere, I think, and then I brought it over here and I put it there and I replaced it, okay? So that's the extent of the studio magic, I guess, if you want to call that. But the snare is not replaced with a sample in any regard. All right, so let's have a look now. What's going on? Let's close that. We don't need that. Okay, so it sounds funny, right, when it's by itself, because it's just, you get this weird sound. But let's just start from the beginning here. This is, in my opinion, probably the best gate plugin on the market right now, because you can select certain frequency areas that you want to work on, and you can control how fast or slow that frequency range opens or closes. Now, I know like there are other gates on the market that are great, like Pro G, obviously, from FabFilter, which I have. But this one in particular, where I can sit here and I can watch exactly how fast or how slow my gate opens, and I can control it to the millisecond. I really enjoy that because you can get pretty close with your ears, right? And then you're kind of sitting there closing your eyes like, oh my God, where are we? Here, you can just get into ballpark really fast with your ear and then literally just look at the spectrum playing across and go, yeah, let's set the release to, here it's 16 milliseconds. Great, perfect, next, move. And the other thing too is each section up here is almost like an EQ band. So I can bring the EQ of the high frequencies down by 3 dB. It's freaking great. I think this is the best gating plugin on the market. I really, really like it, and it did wonders for this because look at listen to this. It's perfectly isolated in every way. And it just makes dealing with the drums later on that much easier because now I can go to my EQ, which I also use Drum EQ, which actually I got to give Glenn Frickert a lot of props for this one because I didn't really even know about these two plugins. 2 years ago, he did a video about how this drum producer pack changed his life for mixing drums, which has multi-band gate, drum EQ, and then IC. I call it IC, but it's called Intuition Compressor. And then I kind of forgot about it. And then he just made a video recently about it. And I was like, oh, yeah, we have AIX DSP here. This is a plugin that I should try using. And whoa, what a great opportunity to try and use it on Cola's song here, which has a lot of bleed. So let's give it a go. So the drum EQ, as far as I understand it here, it's pretty cool because I can set the original frequency, and then all the resonances up and down the frequency chart are basically charted by math, and I can just go along. That's pretty cool. I've gotten pretty fast at seeing stuff like that in FabFilter, where if I make a cut at like 100, I just go, yeah, all right, just move right. You can kind of see it, in the spectrum, like here's the other one, here's the other one. But this one's really nice because it's just, I can tune the original frequency, and then I want to do something over here in this octave I see or hear something, and I go boop, 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 done. So it is pretty cool, and it's very effective. This EQ is nice. Brings it right up. Now we can hear, because we're bringing the high end of the snare up, that we're bringing all the cymbals with it. Now, had I thought of it, I may have tried doing something. Let's just call it the get good trick with the snare. I may have thought about, why did I call it? No, that's not what I want. This is the wrong plugin. I wanted the Pro MB. I should have tried doing this. It may have worked even more. Negligible. There's not much of a difference. So there's that. But anyway, I didn't do that. But even just with the multiband gate and the drum EQ, which is kind of the foundation of what I've done with all the drums here. You see drum EQ, multiband gate, but I also use multiband gate on vocals. Talk about that later. But it was kind of like a core aspect of how I got the drums to sound the way they do. So drum EQ and the multiband gate, especially on the snare, which completely isolates it. Really cool. After that, we did the compressor. Same thing. So this AIX stuff is pretty interesting because this one's a little bit. There's a lot of stuff on here, but the main thing that I like seeing is I like seeing how long the compressor is open for, like how long it's open, how fast it's closing. So as a visual person to mixing music, ironically, this helps a lot for me to dial in the compressor exactly to where I want it to be. And this one, I'm just trying to get the Hammer of Thor sound out of the snare. So just trying to get that. And then we clip it. Just do a little bit of clipping. Give some body back to the snare, make it sound thick. And that's pretty much it. Now, this is what you see here is an automation. I'll talk about automation pretty much towards the end of the mix. But that's the snare. Now, this took a little while to get cleaned up, to get the multiband gate setting that made sense, and to fix the snare up as I saw fit. But that really wasn't the hard part. The hard part were the toms, because there was a lot of bleed in the toms, but also some of the tom hits were just not very good. I mean, I don't know who the drummer was in 1997. If that guy happens to be watching, I apologize. But the toms were hit kind of soft, so you don't have a nice attack or a pop on the tom, which made them hard to cut through and get the mix. And actually, there's a fill here, like one of the main parts of the song, where I did a lot of effects onto the fill just to kind of hide the fact that the fill is not the best, not so well played. This is 100% all manual editing. There are no samples here on these toms. These are all the real toms. You can hear it. You can hear it. Okay, you can hear the cymbals. Okay. This is all manual gating here. I tried going through this with multiband gate, and it worked fantastic, but I wanted to have 100% control here. So I guess if we're talking about modern mixing, sure, yep, I went super modern here, and I went precision. I came in here, and I'm leaving like 20 millisecond fade-ins and fade-outs. I am listening to just to the point where this next tom hit comes or where the cymbal hit comes, and I'm fading it out instantly. And in the mix, it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes the fade out was too abrupt, and somehow you hear that. But with the short reverb plate on it, a little trick you can do is if you listen to this, you want to kind of get a feeling for what the natural decay would sound like. That feels pretty natural. If it was just bit, and everything cut off, that would be weird, right? And then obviously in the context of everything, completely can't hear a thing. All right, so manual gating is exactly what it sounds like. You cut all of the extra, so like where there's not a tom hit, it gets deleted. All right, and then you do a manual fading like so. That's it. It's very time consuming. It's annoying, but for this song, it was pretty much required because I wanted to have as much control of the drum sound as possible, and I wanted it to be clean. All right, doing it this way also kind of like using the snare drum, and it allows you to be pretty aggressive with your EQ moves and stuff like that because you don't really have to worry about all the extra noise coming in. So what I did on all the toms basically was drum EQ again. This sounds amazing on toms. Holy shit. Highly recommended. Really, let me see if I can find a good spot here. Maybe even this one. So we got this. Okay. Let's just take the drum EQ off. Just sounds like a piece of cardboard. Piece of cardboard. There we go. So this drum EQ is like magic for toms, for real. Really fucking amazing. Really like it. Sounds great. What did I do here? Just a little bit of extra EQ. Turn this on. Oops. Turn it on. Just a little bit of tiny extra EQ. But the heavy lifting is clearly done by the drum EQ. It's like literally night and day difference. Bonk, 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 bonk. It sounds like a tom. Yeah. Fantastic plugin. This is on all of the toms. You can see drum EQ, drum EQ, drum EQ on all of the toms. Awesome. This is going to be the EQ that I use anytime I work on real drums. Freaking amazing. I'm probably going to experiment using it on like Superior Drummer or stuff like that. But that is the EQ, hands down. Awesome. Fantastic. And then I'm going with the compressor again. Same situation. I'm trying to get again like the idea that this tom was hit by Thor's hammer to get just a thick concussive type attack and thickness in the tom. Let's do this. Okay, trying to thicken it up there. Great. As you can see here, very surgically done with the fades. This is 100% hand work. Like, this is worst case scenario manual gating right here. All right. So all of the tracks have drum EQ, Pro EQ, and then the clipper, and then the compressor. On Tom 1, I think I used DF clip in order to make the upper frequencies brighter. I don't remember why I used this. Let me see if I can recall. It's just a little bit boxy up there. I wanted to bring the high end a bit more. Yeah. Just a smidge. And I actually don't know why I didn't use this on any of the other tracks. I may have just forgotten, may have just forgotten. So, but in the context of everything, yeah, fantastic. No worries. So toms, there we go. Now you see I have some automation on the toms because of the performance being what it is and how the songs sounded at certain times. Some of the toms disappeared sometimes. Some of the fills were like, can't hear them. So you got to bring them up. Some of the fills were totally loud enough and got a big deal. That's just basic automation stuff for you guys. And your ears have to you need to be able to listen to that in time and go try to track the listening experience. Like if there's this fill here, okay, where it sounds cool, like if you solo the drums and whatnot, sounds pretty neat. Yeah, great. But then if you put it into the mix and it just disappears. So let's turn the automation off. Gone. Bring it up a smidge, and there you go. It's not in my face, but it's in the mix. I can hear it now. Okay. So those are all the toms. Again, all the real toms here. No sample replacement. And I don't think I even did any of the studio magic like I did with the snare here. I think all the tom hits are what all the tom hits were. I didn't change anything. Wrong. I lied to you. There was studio magic here on this fill. For the same reason. The China was so obnoxious that these tom hits were just gone. And if you tried to work with them, it was just a cacophony of noise. Just China was everywhere right here. So this is the exact same thing I did with the snare up here. Is I took another tom hit earlier in the song, and I put it in here. So it's a very clear fill. You hear it clean as day now. But it's the same exact, it's not a sample. Okay, so it doesn't call it attention to itself. All right. Okay, so those are the shells. And as far as the shells go, it was a pain in the ass, but they weren't that bad. They were good sounding shells. The problem was the cymbals. So the cymbals were an absolute clusterfuck, in part because one of the cymbals that the guy was riding on, I think it's right here. Where is it? This bit right here was brutal. Wing, 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 wing. And look at all the EQ I've done here. Plus soothe. Plus multiband gate. It's one of those cymbals, like as a drummer, it had to be this fucking big. It had to be like a 28-inch fucking crash because it sounds like a gong. It doesn't have the fast opening, fast attack that you would expect to have with a cymbal that you're riding on. So it's just like gong, 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 gong. And then it's just expanding forever. And it's just really sibilant. And it's even worse in the rooms. Like if I turn the room stuff off, it's just super annoying. So this was really annoying right here. And the other thing too was that you can hear the kick drum. It's almost like the kick drum is the loudest thing in the overhead. So that was an issue. So you would think, no big deal. I'll just do EQ. And this is extreme EQ that's going on here. So all I've done is just make the kick sound better in the overheads. The kick is just there. You can't get rid of it, right? But then I'm thinking, like, what if I use multiband gate? What would that do? Now, I don't know why I decided to try this, but the idea was if I have multiband gate and everything here is in like we have the frequency ranges here. What if I just set the frequency range to like 250 and then just muted the low band? What would happen? So you can hear it's really boomy now. Like the kick is actually boom, boom, still, even being literally nuked in Pro Q. So watch or listen to what happens. You have that boom, 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 boom in the low end still, and then I'll turn the multiband gate on. Suddenly we have a dynamic shift, like, oh, now the kick is down here now, all right? And that's all we really needed to do because now I'm bringing the volume of the kick down, which will allow the kick trigger to sit on top, right? And then obviously I turned the EQ band all the way down to multiband gate. We have soothe for the cymbal, and then I think I'm doing this again with the EQ. Now starting to really get that kick out of the overhead. One last little EQ here to make the overheads not so harsh. Now the problem with doing all this EQ and then soothe here is that the cymbal has become rather washy, totally, and there's really no transient. We don't really know, can't really detect like where the stick is hitting on the cymbal. However, to be fair, the cymbal's already washy anyway, so can't really do anything about it. Okay, so the overheads really were just trying to get the kit picture of the cymbals. Okay, that was interesting. Okay, same thing with the hi-hat now in conjunction. I think the only thing I did is I made sure the hi-hat was in phase with the overheads, just to make sure there wasn't anything weird. Rooms were much of the same thing. Just taking out a bunch of the low end. Well, you can still hear literally the kicks just punching you in the chest. So I did the multiband gate thing again. It just brings down the kick. It just brought it down, so it just changes the dynamics of the room mics. And then obviously we gotta restore them. Even more EQ. Man, these we're not the best cymbals in the world. But it is what it is. So that's the drums basically right here. Okay, so they sound really dry, obviously. Not at all what we're going for, me personally. Now, I am experimenting more and more with putting all of my mixes in a single space. I sort of got the idea when I watched Cola's Nail the Mix 700 years ago, but I've been expanding on it even more to the point where I'm really deciding to put the mix in a room. And then I make the room decently loud enough. Like you can hear this. If I mute this, the drums will be even more dry. Now see, everything's passing through. There you go. You hear the tail, bump, bump, and then the tail of the reverb. Obviously, we need some more reverb. There we go. We got some drum verb, which is just Pro R. And this is pretty much just for extra snare and tom reverb. And so it's a pretty good reverb setting here where the reverb tail pretty much falls off right before the next snare is about to hit. I love reverb. I listen to a lot of black metal, so I'm not afraid to use it. I don't particularly care. I know some people want death metal to be really dry. I think that's kind of boring. Some type of atmosphere, some type of room for your music to exist within, to me, makes sense. All right, excellent. And that's the drums, right? And for me, the drums took quite a bit of time. It was pretty annoying. Definitely were the hardest part of the mix, without a question. Definitely the hardest part. Oh, I had the overheads. There we go. This should sound way better. There we go. Yeah, I had the overheads, the inserts turned off. There you go. You can see the time, guys. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. It's been a busy day. All right. All right, so there we are. moving on. Let's move on to the bass. The bass by itself sounded fine. I mean, no particular issue here. It's a bass, right? But the DI, I believe Qualisec had already been distorted to some degree, so it wasn't like a clean DI. Yeah, that slowdown is pretty killer. Here I just took out the silences, just to make sure everything was super tight. Didn't really do anything else. Didn't edit anything, as you can see. It's just everything is how it was played. I just took out the bits between nothing going on, and that's it. For the DI, I split the DI. I think is what I did here. Yeah, I split the DI, and then I put a compressor on to kind of make it a bit more punchy. It's just a stock little move that I do here, just to make the low end a bit more even, because this is what I ended up sending into the Sans amp. Because what I did was I also did I basically did the split bass. I basically did the split bass technique. All right, nothing new here, absolutely nothing out of the ordinary. But what I did was I split the low end of the DI and then I split the high end of the amp. But what I also did is I put the DI clean, like I didn't do any EQ, through the TSE BOD. And then mixed it all together. So bass was definitely the easiest. Definitely wasn't too difficult. So blended all that together, and then I did my classic bass chain. I just do EQ here, just to shape it while the mix is playing. Make sure the bass is gonna poke out through the guitars. Low control, which is a fantastic plugin, something I've been using a lot lately, because I can control the low end. This is from Black Salt Audio. My buddy Jordan Valeriat, this is his company. So I use this all the time on bass, in conjunction with double tap, which basically, this thing is pinned. And then L1, it's not going anywhere. And it's right there in your face, every note. But then I used micro shift, which is a trick I've shown you guys many times on this channel that I really like to use. It's just sort of an extra little clanky, silky type of chorus, which is basically what it is. Just to make it stick out a little bit, make a bit more width of the bass. A lot of people left comments about the bass sound on this mix, and this is what it is. Nothing out of the ordinary, just pretty clear-cut bass sound, right? Let me show you something. So I did automation on this. All right. So it's the same exact concept with the toms. Sometimes the toms just disappeared, so I brought them up in the mix. For this one, what I did is I made sure that you heard the bass in the beginning. Now you guys are watching this in the DAW. This came down, okay? This came down by 2 dB, but your brain still hears the bass at the same level. It's some psychoacoustic trick in the brain. Don't ask me how it works, but it does, because I'll play this again. You're still hearing the bass at the same volume that you heard it in the beginning. But obviously I brought it down a little bit to fit room for the guitars and the vocals, okay? And I do this the same in the breaks, to really make sure you hear the bass. In particular, this little bass slide that happens right here, which sounds awesome. I think these little small articulations need to be accented, so hence the automation. And I've done that anywhere else later on in the song where I feel it's necessary. Right there too. Boom. I think you have to hear these things, so I accented them. Automation is very powerful, guys. It's one of the things that I would say it's like, when you're learning a language, it's like, okay, cool. Now you're going on the street, you can converse, you can say hi. But at a language, once you get to the point where you can start using idioms and phrasal verbs and you can start using the colloquial slang, that's how you know you're really getting used to the language. Automation is kind of like that. Automation is the degree where you start hearing the mix and you start visualizing the listening experience and you're like, we're missing something here. We're missing something here. And it's just that last little 10% to the mix to make sure, it's hitting the right way that you want to. Okay. Rhythm guitars, I think I did the least amount of work to. Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of processing, we'll talk about the other automation stuff later. So processing rhythm guitars is just a baked tone. I mean, I couldn't do anything with this anyway because this is what they sound like. Which I have nothing against, by the way. I grew up in the 90s. I grew up listening to death metal. I heard this tone all the time. Totally. But when I started doing the EQ, I was like, once you got rid of that 2.3, the tone disappears in the mix. It just goes away. It instantly comes under everything else, and you're like, shit. So I'm using API Pink 4 Acoustica to crank it up a little bit. Now, I'm using a lot. This is a 9 dB boost. You saw my face for a second. I'm like, is that really what it is? It is literally 9 dB. Because I'm shelving it. I'm trying to bring all of that high end from here all the way up. Because you can see how it just falls off a cliff there. There's like nothing happening over like 7K or so. So I'm jacking the shit out of 10K, just bringing it right up. But I'm noticing that it's still not quite doing what I want it to do, right? It's flubby. Okay, it's like really flubby. It's not tight. This is death metal. Like, I understand it's the 90s, but it just wasn't working for me. So I tried a couple of different things before. Settling on this trick. I don't remember where I've seen this before, but for some reason, in the back of my mind, it was like, put decapitator on the guitars. It'll help. And it does. All I'm doing with the decapitator is I'm basically doing EQ with it. I'm adjusting the low cut, the tone, and the high cut, and very little drive. Just kind of breaking it up a little bit more to add distortion to hopefully help it cut through everything else. And then the low cut here is where I'm really dealing with all the extra thumpity thumpness, the looseness of the guitar. And that tone knob is clearly doing a lot of work. But it's just a little tiny bit, just to make the extra little difference. Everything just became a bit more tight with that, you see? So, pretty cool little idea. I've seen it before. I did not invent that. I just can't tell you. I don't remember where it comes from. And then for some ungodly, I don't know why, I was like, let's just use Renaissance Axe on this instead of L1. Fuck it. I don't know why I used this. But there you go. That's why. That's what's happening. And that's all that's happening on the guitars. That's it. So didn't do a whole lot. So if with the drums and the bass and guitars, we're already at this. So pretty slamming, pretty awesome. All right. Vocals, which were super simple, tracked nicely. EQ, multi-band compressor on the vocal. I think this was just to bring down the highs a little bit. Let's find the part where he's actually singing.
Shut up, I don't want to hear about blood soaking from the nail that binds me.
Yeah, it's somehow, I guess I was all about trying multi-band gate in various different spots here. This is basically a slight de-esser without using a de-esser. I can set from like 4K and above. I can just bring that down and I de-ess it. Don't know if it's really doing anything, to be honest, but I put it on there, and that's what I decided to do with it. And then the Expressor, which is Kive Audio, the distressor plugin, which is literally my go-to for vocals. I always run everything through a distressor, and if necessary, after that, I will run it through one of my UAD plugins, like the LA2A or a 76 style compressor after that. But this one just sounded fine with the Expressor, the distressor, and I left it at that.
Shut up, I don't want to hear about blood soaking.
So this is a preset you can see up here, starting vocal comp. And then I think I just moved the input to 7, and we're done. So when your vocalist is really good, you don't have to do much at all. And then I literally copied that across to the... I just didn't use the multiband, as you can see here. I think I just went with EQ. Yeah.
Shut up, I don't want to hear about.
Increasing the... Yeah, see, I think what I get this one was the high end actually wasn't enough for me.
Shut up, I don't want to hear about.
Oh, I got the microchip down here. We'll talk about that. Cool. It doesn't want to disable. Nice. So, awesome.
Shut up,
We'll just turn the dry all the way down.
shut up, I don't want to hear about. Shut up, I don't want to hear about.
So I just extended the high range there, and then micro shift, which kind of just not distorts it, but see here, like detunes it. You know, it flutters it, which helps it also come on top when something is being doubled.
Shut up. Shut up, I don't want to hear about.
So instead of just having like volume wars, you can adjust things tonally and sonically, and then they just sort of fit like that. Same thing there. Distorted, it's literally the same, guys. Distorted, it did the exact same thing. I think it's just, I actually put a de-esser on here, though.
You love you that way. And all your people, you now pushing.
There you go. All right. EQ, Expressor. I think these are literally copied. Didn't even touch it. So that's what happens sometimes. So all copied over. So without the effects, we have just the mix. This is what we're looking at.
What's that you trusted? The perfect remains. We're so good. You're already dead. You deserve that I myself will kill. I swear you don't.
All right, there we are. So let's talk about all of the automation that I've done, plus the FX. So one of the things about this song that I noticed right away is there's 1, 2, 3, 4 stops in the song, and just in the regular song, it's just chugga chugga chug. So you start the song again, chugga chugga chug. And I was just like, okay, that's a bit. We need to liven that up a little bit. So every single stop, except for the first one is just the way it is. The second one, I put in a reverse snare and a door slam effect. this one over here, I've done a bunch of things too. We'll talk about that. But the effects are just subtle. Okay, just trying to make it more interesting to listen to.
You will die.
Just a little bit, right? Because previously, oh no, in the next bit, I'll show you what I did. I forgot to mention this. Where is I think it's this one. Yeah. So this is what I did to do this to make this transition again more interesting. This is just the very first scream. It's just this. Okay. It's just this scream right here. But what I did is I reversed it in Cubase and then I kind of butted it up to where this scream was. And then just sort of like did a, with automation. Once again, just to cover space and to make it sound more interesting because, we've done this break already twice in the song. So I wanted it to sound cool again. All right. The effects. This is the only other effect that I did here. I did a lot of stuff here. So, all right, here's where I Mr. Produced it. All right. Let's talk about all this stuff here because I'm sure you know. This fill just left a lot to be desired. It just felt like the toms were tickled with the sticks. These weren't hit very hard. So when I was listening to this, I'm like, there's got to be a way to make this interesting. And, I didn't really have any other ideas for how to, handle the break. So I was like, oh, I have an idea. Why don't I do a filter EQ type of effect on the guitar and then do a flanger on the drum fill? Super 90s. Why can't we do that? So that's exactly what I did. So if we listen to the drum fill, this should work. Yeah, you can hear the flanger. It's it's so cool. That's awesome. And it's just a stock flanger here. I didn't do anything. It's just automated for the mix to go to 0 in Cubase, right? I love it. It's it's so cool. And then for the guitar, I'm using, where is it? Right here. I'm using Telefy, which is another plugin from Black Solid Audio, which made making this effect dumb easy, just like super simple. Just one plugin and then mix knob. Awesome. And then what I did is I made the guitar move from left to right. Because I just thought this movement across the spectrum along with the flanger fill would make this break interesting to listen to. I was like, that's cool, but I'm still not... I wanted to hit harder here. I wanted to be more interesting. So this is where, again, I went a little bit Mr. Producer here. But I think it sounds cool. So I found a riser. This one. Oh, we have a plugin here. Turn that off. Just a simple riser, nothing fantastic. But this sounds kind of boring, right? If I just have this in here. Who cares? Nothing interesting. The auto pan is what makes it crazy. And then here what I did, I set this auto pan to be with the guitars, which we're playing triplets. There we go. And at the end, you can really hear it going back and forth. It just sounds like this. That's it. So nothing. And then the same exact door slam that I used previously, just to add an impact to the next part coming up. So very small details, but in my opinion, this makes the song very interesting to listen to, and for a person to go, "Oh, that was cool. That was pretty sick. Nice." Instead of just having the break happening over and over again. Live, maybe it would be cool. You could be on the microphone and be like, "Oh, let's hear it. Let's do something cool. Oh my God, are you ready?" And then you do the slams and whatever. A ton of automation was done with the delay. Again, I used a lot of delay. again to fill space. So we have the vocals. And we're filling space within the mix. Okay, there's always a fine line of just having delay that just is clearly audible, way too loud, and then mixing delay into the mix, again, where it does that psychoacoustic trick like I talked about with the bass. And then trying to use it in cool places, that makes sense. Like, obviously, all the breaks get some delay. But you can see here, I'm down here in this lane right here. I'm automating the wetness down quickly so it doesn't take too much away from the guitar riff being played. So we heard the effect. That's cool. And then again, in your brain, that's going off and off and off. But then your brain switches to listening to the guitar bit, which to me makes more sense. And then it's again just kind of crafting the listening experience here.
You will die.
Same thing here, allowing that thing to go die, and then just cutting it off. I even did it in parts in between certain verses here. Let me see if I can find it. No, there's one particular. I think this is it. Right, so he says repent here. I think that's cool. And then, I mean, it sounds weird when it's soloed like this. I mean, it just gets cut off. It's like, what the hell is that? But in the mix, you hear the repent, and then it repeats repent and just covers that little bit of space again. Sounds really cool, and then flows into the next bit. But this is really just sitting back, listening to the song a few times and going, okay, would be cool here to have delay. Would be cool here to have delay. This would be pretty neat. And then just going back and forth and listening again and again and again. But the end of the song, in my opinion, absolutely required a delay. This bit right here. This is where the vocals, there's 3 layers. And what I decided to do was I'm going to have one of the vocals go off to the left. I'm going to have one vocal stay in the center. And I'm going to have one vocal go off to the right. So I'm got like a 3D space with the vocals, and then I'm gonna absolutely just jam pack it with delay. So we have this. That sounds so heavy. And it's just like sounds so brutal and heavy, right? And I didn't put the delay on the whole thing, and I didn't use it on this little break. I originally had done some delay here where it's just a little bit, but then this end bit did not hit as hard because I wanted it to be forsake, and then it just falls off a clip, and you just have this delay of vocals. This sounds so heavy, very evil there. And sounds great. So that's pretty much what I did for, that's what I did for the mix. And now the other automation for the vocals, this is just, again, listening to the song and controlling, making sure there's a uniform listening experience, that nothing just pops out for no reason. Like, what the hell was that? Or why is that so loud, right? And then on the vocals bus, I've done more de-essing. Okay, more EQ. This is all, I mean, this is just basic EQ. You don't need a lot of low end when you have bass and guitars, in my opinion, so this is just, my vision, how I like to mix. This is how I got the sound that I got, right? Finally, obviously, we're going to have the submix and the master, which is where I did a lot of experimentation with the song, actually. Things that I hadn't normally done. Was experimentation. And I'd like to make the point that even though I've been mixing and I'm booked through February next year, it doesn't mean that I can't learn. It doesn't mean that I can't learn new things or try new things. In fact, It is because I keep trying new things and I keep watching other people mix. Like to this day, I still will ask Cola, like, dude, why did you do that? Or what's the point of doing this? Or I'll ask someone like, hey, okay, so you did this. What are you listening for? Because I'm always trying to find a better way or a simpler way, or not a trick per se, but yeah, I want my mixes to always sound better. So with this particular submix, I was trying a couple things that I actually saw on the Cola Audio Cult from Ermi, right? In particular, this particular EQ structure where he's doing something in the mids and the lows, and these are all pretty much EQ moves that he would have made, and I tried them based on my mix. This is from a video from Joey Sturgis, I believe, called Automatic Mixing, where you put this on the instrument bus. It's like a sculptor. So, I mean, like, again, I'm not a genius, guys. I'm not coming up with all these things myself. I'm trying things that I've seen other people do, okay? To see if it makes sense for me. That's all, right? I have a tape, which is I've been doing for years, tape. This is another thing that I've seen Ermi do, which makes sense to me, actually. It really made sense for me, which was to increase the 12K of the entire mix to make it a bit more on the bright side. Let's see here. So we're raising the energetic part of the mix up, a 12K up just a little bit, just to give it more air and breath into the entire mix. Like, that makes total sense to me. So I'll be doing things like this, right? The sculptor is just an automatic smiley face EQ. It's sort of, like, watch the video Automatic Mixing from URM Academy. Joey talks about it. I've been experimenting with this for a while. I'm not particularly sold on it, but I like to try it every now and again. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. But it's not really doing a lot. It would appear that I already have the mix smiley faced enough, but okay, cool. Crave EQ here. Most of the work is being done on the low end, tightening it up a little bit. This was an interesting EQ move. Bringing down around 200 actually brings the sub level of the kick more up front. So it's like one of these things in relationship. It's like a relationship EQ. Cool, pretty cool. Just trying out new things. But this is the kicker right here. This is the first time I ever seriously put any time into using the C6 multiband compressor. And I think I need to spend more time learning multiband compressors, because I also have the linear phase multiband compressor, and I have Vitamin from Waves. And this was an eye-opening experience. So I'm going to turn it off. Now, I don't think anyone's going to say that mix sounds bad. I mean, everything's audible, but just listen to what happens when the C6 goes on. There will be a volume jump, so be careful. The low end's tighter, the mids are definitely focused, and the high end is more airy. Now, this is the first mix I really tried with the C6, and there's a method to how you do this. Like, you start with the low end, you solo that, you find the range, and then you work with the thresholds and stuff like that. And I really just enjoyed it. And it just dawned to me that this is another great way to shape the sonic foundation of your mix. For example, if I'm listening to this and I go, it's just too bright for me, I can just do this. There we go. So I adjusted the entire sonic signature of the mix while keeping things in balance and congruent with each other. Now, it's like multiband compression is nothing new, but it's the first time I sat down and really sat down and was like, okay, let me actually spend the time and do this. So even when I have so much to do, so many mixing clients, and I'm mixing all the time, I'm still sitting here Friday night, Saturday morning, 1.5 days after Christmas, thinking about mixing, thinking about how I can get better. And it's fun to me. It's interesting to me. So that's what you have to do. So, and then for the master, again, this is something new for me. Working with a clipper. Apparently, this is the Labra Gold clipper, and this is how you get your stuff really loud, but also thick and sounding fantastic. So I was like, okay, let me try that, see what happens, and this is what we got. So let me turn off. I keep ozone on because otherwise it won't be right. So this is I can't really talk about this. I can hear what the difference is. It definitely sounds fuller, but I'm actually I need to spend more time with this one. Apparently, Flatline from Submission Audio is basically this, and I can hear that, but I wanted to test it out for myself. So I mean, I had like a coupon code, and it was Black Friday, so I was like, after Black Friday, so let me try it. And if I like it, I'll keep using it. If I don't like it, it's whatever. It's a lesson learned, and that's what happens sometimes, right? And then you have ozone here, but just little final EQs. Yeah, this was automatic. I think what I did was I set for the wizard to kind of just see what they do. Now, the interesting thing about this is sometimes the wizard I call it the wizard, this thing here, the assistant. Sometimes the assistant will catch things that I might not be hearing because I may have been listening to the mix too long. And then I'll actually go back in the mix and fix it. Like if I see a gigantic, let's say, for example, instead of 1.1, this said like -5. That's a huge problem in the mix. You need to go back in the mix and fix that. So sometimes things like that do happen to me where I'll see there'll be a giant boost or something in this area. I'm like, ugh. I'll go back and be like, why is that happening? Where am I missing that? And then I'll go back and fix it. But that's pretty much the master chain, and that is how I got the sound on this mix. All right. I just spent a day working on this and then submitted it, right? It was a cool thing to mix. Big thanks to Coda and the band Malamor, of course, for making the stems available. I think it's very cool to not only... So you got to understand, like in 1997, I remember, I was 12 years old. So, I mean, I was listening to Cannibal Corpse and all that. So it's funny to go back and be like, wow, how far recording techniques have changed from recording on a knee board in 1997, which was like, dude, back then, to, well, I can do that at my house and almost get a better result. So it's kind of funny. But the main things, if you're still working on this mix and you haven't submitted it yet, spend the time to manually gate the toms. If you're going to buy any plugin after watching this video, super would recommend multiband gate and drum EQ. These two just awesome. Just absolutely great. Really saved me a lot of time with the snare drum, for sure. I've gotten a lot of comments about like how good the shell's sounding if I used a sample, which I did not use any samples except for the kick drum. So that's kind of it. That'll be the hardest thing, right? And then just making the song interesting to listen to, like be Mr. Producer or Mrs. Producer, there's been some argument, people say my mix sounds too modern or something like that. I don't really care. I just want the mix to slam, to sound awesome, and to be heavy. And I think I achieved that. So if you have any questions, leave them down below. I will leave links to everything that I used here, like multiband gate and stuff. Also a link to the original mix from 1997, I think, also a link to where you can take part in the mixing contest. It's open to everybody. And I would just, regardless of your skill, I would just super recommend that you give this mix a try and just try it. Why not? Great. So hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you have any questions, leave them down below, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good one.